Hey, everybody, welcome to Spill the Milk, your favorite breastfeeding podcast. My name's Nicki. I'm a registered nurse. More importantly, I'm a board certified lactation consultant with over 20 years' experience helping moms and babes breastfeed. Don't you feel like the good stuff, the stuff that you really need to know as a breastfeeding mom or a soon to be breastfeeding mom, somehow gets skipped over? And we go to all this complicated things that sound so scary and people are talking about them everywhere and you're like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." What if you were told all the good stuff you needed to know? The basic stuff. What if you were taught some common principles about breastfeeding before you even started your journey? Or if you're new to your journey, what if someone told you, "Hey, you know what? That's kind of normal. I'm so sorry no one supported you through that. And I'm so sorry that no one told you this was just kind of part of the journey and you didn't expect it. And now, because you didn't expect it or know it, you think something's wrong." So, in this episode, we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss all of that good stuff, that basic knowledge that I like to spread and talk about because you guys know I do real talk about breastfeeding. I'm very direct, but most of all, I care because I want to see you succeed. But without knowledge, success is very hard to reach. So let's get started today. I'm super excited. We're going to go over just some basic things, 7 or 8 things that I just think get skipped. And I'm going to tell you all about them today. So, first of all, breastfeeding is mentally hard. It's just mentally hard. It's draining. No one prepares you for that. Second thing, I don't want you timing a breastfeeding session. Third, you got to know what normal supply is. And you've got to know what that looks like from the very beginning until you hit that 4, 5, and 6 month mark. You also need to know, how do I know when my baby's full? How do I know when they're done? You got to know that. But a big one, there's no pumping to bring your milk. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. I'm going to tell you why. The other things you need to kind of try to figure out is your baby's just not going to sleep for long stretches. Breast milk is used very quickly in your baby's gut. And we're going to talk about all that stuff. Latch, oh my gosh, it's so awkward in the beginning. It is so awkward. Do you know why it's awkward? Because you've never done it before. That's why it's awkward. It's not awkward because it's wrong. It's awkward because it's new, right? And anything new feels different. So you need to give yourself time to adjust. And the very last point that I am going to drill into your head is feed on demand. Feed on demand. And then we're going to add some stuff to that. So let's get jumping in. I want to cover the mentally hard part first, because I think that this is something that moms just aren't prepared for. And I think that if you don't know the kind of anxiety that's going to creep in, you're not going to have blocks of knowledge to help you get through it. So, breastfeeding is mentally hard. There's a physical aspect of breastfeeding that's hard, but that mental side of breastfeeding, these are the things that you're going to struggle with. And then I'm going to give you ways to overcome them. One of the biggest things that moms struggle with is you can't see that milk go in. You can't see it go in. And everyone wants to know, how much milk is your baby getting? And you want to know, how much milk is my baby taking? You want to know all those things. But because you're at breastfeeding, you're not going to know that. Now, if you're a pumping mom, that's different. You'll see it come out and you'll see it go in. But when we add pumping into this, now we've created a physically hard journey. It's more demanding than the at breastfeeding part. And because sometimes moms are comparing the beginning mental load that at breastfeeding can have on them with the, oh, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that. I can't see it go in. And now I'm going to start pumping so I can see it come out. Now there's a physical thing we're adding. We're adding more work. We're having you hook up to your pump, make sure you're pumping correctly, make sure your flanges fit correctly. Make sure all those things are in line. You're pumping responsively. I teach responsive pumping. You guys can grab that class. The link's in my bio. But we have to make sure all those things are happening when you're pumping. And there's that physical demand now that you didn't have with the breastfeeding. Okay. And the physical demands of pumping and the variables that exist with pumping, that's the physical part of it. You got to wash your parts. You got to clean your parts. You got to pump on demand. You got to be ready on schedule. You got to do it no matter if your baby's crying and needs to be fed a bottle. So all those aspects of breastfeeding are mentally and some physically hard. And if you can get over that big, huge barrier of, I can't tell how much my baby's getting. And I can give you ways to show you that your baby's getting full, which we're going to touch on here pretty soon. You're going to have those blocks of knowledge to be able to apply. How do you know? How do you know how much your baby's getting? Wet and poopy diapers. That's a good one to start with, right? Okay. So the next topic I'm going to talk about is there's no timing. Timing a breastfeeding session. This is basic breastfeeding lingo 101, breastfeeding knowledge 101 is you're not going to time a breastfeeding session. It's giving you no information besides what time you started breastfeeding and what time you stopped. That's not telling you a whole lot of anything. It's not telling you, did your baby eat actively? Was your baby effective at breast? It's only teaching you to look at a clock. It's not teaching you to watch your baby, okay? And we're going to get into all those things to show you how your baby's getting enough. We're going to get there in a couple more sections. Just stay with me. Timing a feed gives you no information. If someone tells you to time a breastfeeding session, it is a red flag because we don't teach that anymore. Because guess what else happens? As your breastfeeding journey gets further and further along, your baby gets more effective and more efficient at removing milk. And that effectiveness and that efficiency leads to quicker, faster feeds. But if you're still training your brain and you've trained your brain to think 15 minutes equals full, and your baby doesn't feed for that long just because they're effective and they know how to do it, you think your baby's not getting enough milk. And it sets you up for failure in the future. Okay? So no timing a breastfeeding session. The only thing I want you to do is feed on demand. We're going to get there and I'm going to explain more of it. So let's also talk about normal supply because I think this one gets skipped a lot as well, a ton. And it really, really, really falls into play when we talk about pumping. And this is why, if you want to be a pumper, I want you to wait till around 4 weeks. Again, my responsive pumping class, go grab it. But how do you know how much supply you're supposed to have? Well, there's a great study out there that taught us a lot about exclusively at breast only fed babies from about the age of 4 weeks till 4 months. Those babies took anywhere between 19 and 30 ounces a day. And we know this because they were at breastfed only and pre and post feed weighs were done on them. That's a big difference, you guys. That's 11 ounces of difference from day one to the next day. From the 4-month-old taking 20 ounces one day and the next day taking 22 or 32 or 30 or anywhere in there. Because your baby is allowed to take from your breast. 4-week-old can take 19 one day and 28 the next because they're taking what they need because you're offering it at the very first signs of hunger. Normal supply is anywhere in that range. But what we do talk about a lot is when we get those pumping moms. Those pumping moms are also doom scrolling on social media, and they're seeing moms pump an astronomical amount of breast milk, and they think that that's normal. Well, I'm going to tell you why you think it's normal, because when you watch that for more than 10 seconds, another one's going to pop up, and another one's going to pop up, and you watch that one for 10 seconds. Now it becomes your normal, because that's all you're seeing. Here's what I'm here to tell you. Normal supply per day is anywhere between 24 and 30 ounces. Babies typically take 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces an hour in between feeds. And what that equates to is if it's been 2 hours since the last feed, 2 to 3 ounces. And this doesn't increase as your baby gets older. The most magical thing that happens is the composition of your breast milk changes to fit your baby's needs. Not adding more, because breast milk is used in the gut in about an hour, no matter how much you give. So we don't feed more to make your baby go longer. we feed smaller quantities more frequently. So if you're pumping to replace a feed, and when I say replace a feed, what I mean is it's been at least 90 minutes since the last stimulation on your nipple. 90 minutes it takes your prolactin levels to go back up and really start pumping out good stuff. 90 minutes to replace a feed. It's been 90 minutes. We expect anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces. Total combined, that is 1 and 3, 2 and 1, 2 and 2, 1 and 2, however you get it. It's total combined 2 to 4 ounces. And people are going to say, do you mean both sides? Yes, I mean both sides total. That's what I mean. That is a normal, average, good, right amounter supply where you're like, man, this is great. But if you're pumping right after a feed, which I would never recommend, and if you do it, I wouldn't do it for a very, very many days in a row because you're going to get yourself in oversupply mode. And I've thrown that out. That was my last episode when I went over the freezer stash and my big concerns for that. Any amount after a feed, all that does is prove to you that you're never empty of milk because you aren't. And I know we say this saying, we say, empty breasts make more milk. You're never empty. You're never empty. We know that to be true. When your baby is stimulating your nipple and having a letdown and pulling out milk, your body is actively making milk to replace that milk. And it stays there for the next feed. That milk just sits there for the next feed. That's your baby's supply. Pumping any amount right after a feeding session just proves to you that you can never be empty. And that's where I want you to sit with that. All right, here's the big one. How do I know when my baby is done eating? Oh my gosh, this is the biggest, most confusing one I get. So I've developed something, and I've talked about this several times, but it's the three phases that your baby goes through during a breastfeeding session, and your baby needs to go through them in order for you to know they're full, okay? And then I'll throw in some of the confusion that happens after. The first phase is your baby is actively eating. You're hearing that suck, swallow, breathe, suck, swallow, breathe, suck, swallow, breathe. And it's noisy. And they're active and they're going to town and they're repetitive and there's repetitions of it. Here's what I want you to know. That doesn't happen when you have colostrum. When you have colostrum, it's very unorganized and we don't expect successive, repetitious suck, swallow, breathe processes. We don't. I don't want you to expect it. So please don't. 1, your colostrum is super thick. 2, your baby doesn't need very much at all, a teaspoon on day 1 to get a full feed. So continuous suckling isn't something I would necessarily look for. Once your milk comes in, you'll start seeing that repetition. So baby is actively eating. I call this the active eating phase of breastfeeding. Don't look at the clock, remember? Doesn't tell you anything. So your baby is going to actively eat. Just like you and I, when we're first hungry, we eat kind of rapidly. The second phase of an at breastfeeding session that will give you some knowledge that they're starting to get full is their questionable fullness, where they're starting to slow down on that repetitious of the suck, swallow, breathe, where they're starting to take more time in between feeds, right? In between those active feeding sessions. And they're not as repetitious as they were. And they're starting to give really long pauses. That's phase 2. That's them questioning, am I full? Being able to go back if they want to, but questionable fullness. Then comes phase 3. Phase 3 is so good because it happens a lot for those first, I would say 2, maybe 3 months. Baby really just kind of goes to sleep with some pulls, but not a lot. You're seeing more inactive sitting at the breast than you're seeing anything else. A few quiver sucks thrown in there. You guys, that's full. Your baby falls asleep. You saw phase 1, you saw phase 2, and you saw phase 3. Your baby falls asleep. Lift their sweet arm up off of your chest. Let it go. And when it flops back down, it's a full tank. Now, the older baby is not going to always go there, so I don't want you to expect it. Once your baby starts interacting with the world around them, they're not going to go there all the time. They're not going to always hit that third phase. But seeing phase 1 and phase 2 You'll see at 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Okay. Now, here's what else I want to tell you. I get moms that are like, I saw all 3 phases. I took the baby off and they got frantic and they looked hungry again. And I put them back on and they started eating, but then they went right back to sleep. You got your answer in that statement. Your baby was frantic because you woke them up. But when you put them back to breast, they didn't go back to phase 1 or stay in it for very long or stay in it at all. They went directly to phase 2.5, which is almost 3. Right back to sleep they went. That's fine. What that meant was they were comfortable, they were likely sleeping on your breast, and you took some of that uncomfortability away from them. And when you did, it scared them. Or you did the patty burps that I call them the patty burps. You woke them up because you're patting them on the back. So they look frantic. Or you went to go set them down away from you. They don't like to be away from you. You put them back, guess what? Phase 1 doesn't stay for very long. They go directly to 2, almost 3, phase 3. You'll get your answer. Put them back. That's how you're going to tell if they're done. No clock on the wall is going to tell you that. But you get to watch your baby do it and start trusting that process. Another big topic is I've got to find time to pump. No, you do not. You do not have to pump to bring your milk. Did you hear me? You do not have to pump to bring your milk. It's a horrible idea. And anyone who gives you and tells you that, run away from them. I'm telling you this. Run away. Because any good lactation consultant knows that a baby to breast brings milk the best. And you can't speed up the milk bringing process because it's all hormone based. By pumping, you're not going to bring your milk in faster. No, you're not. It's not meant to come in fast. Days 1 and 2, colostrum. Why? Because your body hasn't registered that there's not a baby in there yet, that the baby is gone, the placenta is gone. The placenta was spitting out progesterone and estrogen, which cancels out high levels of prolactin. The high levels of prolactin happen at around 16 weeks of pregnancy. But because you have progesterone and estrogen, they cancel out that higher level of prolactin. And you have colostrum, which is so important for your baby. Please don't speed this process up. Your baby needs that colostrum. It is the first natural immunity to coat their belly. It adds a level of protection. Once your body sheds the placenta, whether it's manual extraction, whether you're pushing it out, progesterone and estrogen drop. They drop and they fall, which allows that prolactin level to stay really high. Then your milk comes in. Listen, you can do whatever you want to do to make, if you think, oh my gosh, yes, if I pump, it's going to bring it faster. Why do you want to bring it faster? You want colostrum. You want transitional milk. That's the way Mother Nature intended it. Have patience. Again, your baby does not need a ton of milk on those first few days. We just need to make sure that we understand that your baby to breast is going to remove milk the best. You don't need to pump. Pumping is not necessary. I will die on this hill. I know you're going back to work. Wait until 4 weeks. Then add 1 pumping session a day. Put all of that away. You'll have some in a freezer. You don't need to do it. If you're uncomfortable and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable, I can't get through this moment, we're not pumping to soften. We're just going to pump to move milk. We're just going to move some milk around. We're not going to pump to completely soften ourselves. We're going to let it ride. We're going to let it ride. 1/2 ounce if you're that uncomfortable. 1/2 ounce. We're not going to pump to soften. Oversupply is dangerous. I have a whole video on the freezer stash. Go check it out. It's the one before this. All right. The other thing people just really try to overcome is making their baby sleep a long time for longer sessions. Listen, breast milk is used in the gut in about an hour. Your baby is growing at 5 times the rate that they will in months 4 through 6, 6 through 12. If breast milk is processed in an hour, it's completely possible for your baby to not go much longer than that in between feeds. It's okay. You're giving them something pure. Let's compare it to spinach. Spinach, you don't ever really feel completely full. You're always going to the bathroom and you're always wanting to munch on more. That's breast milk. Very, very, very at the core, pure. No fillers, no additives. It's pure. It's human milk, human babies. That's what it's for. It's digested very quickly. Your newborn baby, your brand new baby, only truly wakes up to eat. And this is where the feeding on demand process comes in. You feed on demand every single time. And guess what? If your baby's 4 months old and you're like, oh, their hands are in their mouth, they look hungry, put them to breast. If they refuse and never go to phase 1 of eating, the answer was they're just playing with their hands. They can show me they're hungry. If your 2-week-old is starting to lick the air and look around and they're starting to wake up, I'm going to tell you this. A newborn baby, 6 to 8 weeks old, usually only wakes up to eat. They don't wake up to play. They don't do that. They eat, they sleep, they eat, they sleep, they eat, they sleep, they eat, they sleep, they eat, they sleep. 8 to 12 times a day or more. I love more because that just tells me you're offering and you're offering and you're offering. And that's where we want to be. We want to keep offering the breast. We want to feed on demand. Up until your baby gains birth weight, we don't want you going past that 3rd hour. So feed on demand, but by the 3rd hour until your baby regains birth weight. Once that baby regains birth weight, it's just feed on demand. Cluster feeding, normal. Cluster feeding does not mean you don't have milk. Cluster feeding, if your baby has the energy to go back to breast every hour to eat, girl, you got it made. You've got it made. You're feeding that baby well. It's when babies have to be woke up consistently at that 3rd hour that we start to worry. Because I know you're likely missing some hunger signs and feeding cues. If your baby's younger than 6 weeks, okay? So feed on demand. If your baby's older, 6, 8 weeks, just feed on demand. Just do it. Watch phase 1, watch phase 2, watch phase 3. They'll go through all of them. But if you just did phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and they acted hungry in 20 minutes, and you put them back on and they go immediately to phase 2.5, likely they just got woke up. But still put them there. It's still good. Your baby can never use you as a pacifier. Pacifiers don't give nutrition. Pacifiers don't drip milk in their mouth. They're exercised. Wait until the 4th week with that passive. All right, my biggest one, latch. You guys know, if you know me, if you've followed me on TikTok or any of my social media, latch is what I specialize in. Why do I teach latch? I teach latch for 2 reasons. 1, to keep you breastfeeding. And 2, because once your baby learns to drop their tongue, it's less I have to teach. People quit breastfeeding because of pain. It's the number 1 reason people quit. Latch pain. So if I can give you remedies and show you things on how to fix latch and make it better, that's what I want to do. Because in that same token, what will happen is your baby will learn to drop its tongue. And then guess what? Once your baby learns to do that, there's no, oh my gosh, do this, oh my gosh, do that, turn the baby this way, move the baby that way, hold your breast like this. No, your baby just automatically, that nipple hits their top lip, they open their mouth, their tongue stays down, your nipple goes in, and they do their thing. It gets you there faster if you can learn latch. I have several ways for you to learn latch. If you are part of my Patreon community, I have a fast track to latch. You can go there and you can grab it. You will learn and see and be able to visualize, and you will be able to master a good latch. These are just some of the hugely important things that I think we skip over in breastfeeding world and breastfeeding land that I think are one of the most and some of the most essential things to discuss with a mom. I've also polled my audience and I'm like, what did you learn from me? What did you learn that was invaluable? And these are just things that they've said. They're also things I repeat on a regular basis. No one, not a single person deserves to have these things skipped over because they're an important part of your breastfeeding journey. And if you have a good expectation, you won't be scared when it happens. Listen, I hope this helps. If you're not a member of my Patreon community, please go there. Please, please, please join me and my community of moms. If you're not following me on social media, I am on TikTok and Instagram. I have a Facebook page. I have a website. I have all these things just for you, just for you. So hook up with me. Let's keep spilling the milk together. Thanks so much.